Good evening. You're in the Cohn zone. That's my dad, Lowell Cohn. I'm Grant Cohn. The Niners lost to the Ravens, and we need to make sense of it. A lot of times this year, the Niners will win a game, and you and I will ask each other, what did we learn about the 49ers this week? And a lot of times the answer is not much. We knew that they could beat this team. We knew that they could beat teams like this. We knew coming into the Ravens game, we would learn something about the Niners one way or another. And boy, did we. We're going to go through it very systematically and in an organized fashion because my dad is organized. And then we're going to look ahead to week 17 and week 18. So what do we learn about the 49ers big picture as a team in this loss to the Ravens?
Okay, we learned a lot of things. For me, the first thing I learned, they're not the best team in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought they were. Honestly, I thought they were. And I would say, which is interesting, to me, the best team in the NFL is the Ravens currently, because these things change week to week. But I can say clearly the Niners are not the best team because they not only lost, they got killed. Let's be real clear on that. That wasn't a loss. That was a butt whipping. That was something that you're embarrassed by. Iggy, would you agree with that?
I would absolutely agree with it. And I think what's interesting is you said we thought the Niners were the best team in the NFL. So did they. I think they carry themselves like they think they're a cut above everyone else when they learned that they're really not. I mean, the Ravens had the same record as them coming into this game. I don't know why the Niners felt they were better, considering the Ravens play in the AFC and the Niners don't. Also, the Niners lost 3 games in a row and the Ravens didn't. There have been some indicators that the Niners are not necessarily this juggernaut that they see themselves to be. And then they got exposed against the Ravens, who are just tougher than them. Tougher than them. Well,
tell me something you learned. I said they're not the best team in the NFL. Something you learned.
They're not as tough as they think they are. They're tough compared to other NFC teams. They're NFC tough. But they're 1-3 against the AFC North, and that's a real tough division.
Yeah, Iggy and I we were talking about this. We came up with a concept, NFC tough, which is not tough.
No.
It's tough for the NFC, but the AFC North is tougher. And not only is it tougher, but not only did the Niners get whipped, they got beat up.
Yep.
The other team was tougher. The Niners got beat up. So that's one thing we learned, that the NFC is a weaker conference, and NFC tough is no big deal.
No, the Ravens sort of made the Niners look like the Dolphins, a team that's flashy, that is clever, but it's still a team with a pretty small quarterback and a pretty small running back. And Brock Purdy has now gotten roughed up and had to leave the game 2 games in a row. So again, they just look like the team that wasn't as tough. What about you? Anything else?
Okay, this might be on Kyle, and we could hold it off till then. The Niners did not come into this game, which was the biggest game in the NFL this season. They did not come well prepared.
No. Emotionally, schematically, in any way. The Ravens did.
Yes, they did. And the Ravens had to fly from the other coast. They had to play out of their time zone. They had to play on another field, and they won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was interesting, after the game, the Niners were given quotes in the locker rooms, things like Diamador Lenore said, they'll be ready next time. Kyle Juszczyk said, this really got their this loss really has gotten the Niners' attention. I mean, they're talking as if they overlooked this game, which I don't know if they said they did. I guess they did. I just don't understand how you could overlook Monday Night Football on Christmas against the other team that has the best record in the league.
Iggy, they didn't overlook this game. They got beat. And when they say stuff like that, it got our attention. I should hope it did. And what did it get your attention? He's meaning that we need to try harder or we need to be more focused. No, the attention is they kicked your butt. They were better than you, and not just a little bit better. The Niners got 19 points, but it was really 12. I mean, that was garbage time. They dominated them. Look, I guess another thing that we learned, they can't control that quarterback, nor are they very good with these running quarterbacks. But Jackson owned them. Once he got going in the second quarter, he owned them.
Yeah.
And the Niners are supposed to have a very good defense.
Yeah. If they face Jackson again, why would they feel confident they could slow him down? It's
Right.
like the Niners do really good when they face someone like Dak Prescott or Trevor Lawrence or Jalen Hurts. But when they faced Kirk Cousins, they got shredded. When they faced Joe Burrow, they got shredded. Lamar Jackson, shredded. So what happens if they make it, through the NFC gauntlet and get to the Super Bowl and face the Bills and Josh Allen? Like, is he not? I mean, if Lamar Jackson could sort of get whatever he wanted, Josh Allen isn't. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of bad matchups in the AFC for the Niners. They should hope they get the Dolphins.
That's right. Bad matchups. Ravens, Bills. Who else? Cleveland.
That's a team the Niners don't want to face. That's a really good defense.
And it made them look bad.
Yeah. And then I know they're broken. I know they're broken.
Who's
Chiefs.
Broken?
The Chiefs. I know they're broken. The Chiefs.
Even so, Iggy.
So. Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes.
You don't want to face him.
He's one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen in my long life watching football. He's a pleasure to watch, and he's a genius.
Yeah.
The guy is. You don't want to face him.
No,
but they may get knocked off along the way.
Exactly. So look, we learned that the Niners can get beat. They're not the best team in the league, but they're among the best teams in the league.
Yes,
and
they are.
If they face the Ravens again, they absolutely could beat the Ravens.
Yes.
Because a big reason the Niners lost is they had the wrong game plan on offense and defense.
That's right. So this is an important point you're making, Iggy. Just because they got their butt whipped and looked awful, it doesn't mean they would lose it. If they meet in the Super Bowl, it's a whole new game. And presumably they learned things from this game. And we can go into that when we talk about Kyle. They learned stuff and they can apply it to the next game. If not, that would be disastrous. And what's more, they didn't have to lose to learn these things, but they may have learned things. So yeah, we're not saying they can't be Super Bowl champs. I think they're going to the Super Bowl. I think they have a very good chance to win it. Not a slam dunk. Not a slam dunk.
Not at all.
No.
Hound 594 says, do a sad Fernando, Grant. Fernando. Official BNA Music 88, who was on TV today, says Piedmont tough, not Oakland tough. Yeah, the Niners are Piedmont tough. Danville tough.
I like it. Yeah.
Danville tough. Charles Michael Sinclair says, what are Papa Cohn's thoughts on Harbaugh coaching the Chargers? Is Herbert everything he wanted Kaepernick to be, mobile, arm, accurate?
I think Jim Harbaugh will end up in San Diego. I think he'll be a hell of a coach. And I think Herbert, comparing Kaepernick to him is kind of funny because Herbert is really, really a good quarterback. And Kaepernick really wasn't.
They're worried. Yeah, I would compare Herbert to like Matthew Stafford. That's what I would think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Antonio Espindola says, same story with Kyle Shanahan. I can't blame Purdy 100% because he keeps making the same dumb mistake of stopping the run. And he didn't address the O-line at all. This is Kyle. Big difference when your second year to a 7-year run. Yeah, I'm with you, Antonio. Hound 594 says, I'm not sure about this take, but this kind of proved Purdy isn't a SQ because SQB don't take shots like he does. He just tried hard to force things. What's an SQ?
I don't know.
I got that Christmas money I'm spending today. Okay, well, tell us what an SQ is. Dad, what did we learn about Brock Purdy in this game?
Oh boy. Okay. I'm going to unload, if you don't mind. There was a lot of talk about why isn't he as good as Joe Montana? He's as good as Joe Montana. He can read the defenses as a quick release. Put that to rest. Don't ever bring that up again. This kid has to win at least Super Bowl before we even mention the name Joe Montana in connection with his name.
Mhm.
He is not Joe Montana. He is not a replica of Joe Montana. He has nothing to do with Joe Montana. So that's off out of the discussion. Would you agree with that?
Yes, thank you very much. It was ridiculous, and now it's over.
Over.
Yeah.
Over. And people say, Joe had bad games.
Mhm.
Does that mean this kid's as good as Joe?
No.
Because he isn't. Because he ain't. He ain't as good as Joe. He looked so befuddled yesterday, Iggy. He looked like he was the JV that was pressed into service with the starters. Came off the practice squad. He didn't know what to do. And I'll tell you another thing I learned about him. And I'm sorry if I preempt you. He's not in the MVP discussion. What the hell are we thinking of?
No.
He's not in the MVP discussion. He's in the not MVP discussion. Let's name some people who are not in the MVP discussion.
Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
CMC is more in, but
he has better odds right now than Brock Purdy does.
Oh, a lot of people do, and the quarterback for the Ravens
has better odds.
does.
Tua has better odds than Brock. Yeah.
But Lamar Jackson, he's a clear front runner.
It was really interesting to see them on the field together, because I think before this game, a lot of Niner analysts, fans had talked themselves into Purdy being a just flat out better quarterback than Lamar Jackson. And I think that's not the case. We saw that both of them had their strengths and weaknesses, but Lamar Jackson took over that game. He got better as it went on. Purdy got worse as it went on. Clearly.
Right.
And you got one guy who makes play after play after play after play outside the pocket, and another guy who makes some plays, but also when forced to make a lot, makes some serious mistakes.
You know, Cam Newton was really right on what he said about them. Would you remind our viewers what he said about them?
He said, look, Brock Purdy's really good, but he's a game manager, not a game changer. Lamar Jackson is a game changer. And I think we saw the difference on the same field yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think what was disconcerting for Brock is that he leaves the game. He got progressively worse. He leaves the game with an injury. Sam Darnold comes in and frankly plays better. I don't know what that means, but it was against the same team. He played better. It's like, what was wrong with Brock yesterday? I don't know.
Well, I think you explained something very interesting to me, how the Ravens took away his intermediate game. I love. Would you talk about it a little more?
Okay, so Brock doesn't have the strongest arm, but he throws with tremendous anticipation and accuracy. So he can throw passes over the middle that don't really travel that far through the air, but he can throw them before the receiver makes his break. He can throw it to a spot, and he trusts his guys to get there. And he's good at that. But the Ravens essentially said, if you do your homework and you have good enough athletes in the middle of the field, you can sort of play in those spots and take them away and either force him to go elsewhere or get a bunch of interceptions. So that's what they said. He's an anticipatory thrower. If you know where he's going with the ball, he's going to throw picks. And he has to be risky to be effective. So his biggest strength is his biggest weakness.
Yeah, and they proved it. They were right. They proved it. They were able to intercept him on passes that he usually completes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That was really something to see. And it's true. Jackson can change a game. Mahomes can change a game. I don't think this kid can. And another thing, Iggy and I have talked a lot about this over the last few months. What boxes does this kid need to check? Well, he can't check the Joe Montana box. But there's another one he needs to check. Can he bring a team back? Every quarterback has to prove that. He couldn't prove it yesterday, and he got so bad the coach took him out and wouldn't put him back. Now he got hurt, but he wouldn't put him back in. And you could see Kyle had his call sheet over his face when he was talking to Purdy, and it was clear Purdy was saying, I want to go back in, and Kyle was saying, no, I yanked you. You're out. That's what I assume he was telling him. He wasn't wishing him a happy new year, you know.
It was interesting, too. In the fourth quarter, they're down 21. Purdy's still in the game, and they're huddling up between plays. Down 21, fourth quarter. And it looked really strange. Like, why are you doing this? Then Purdy gets injured. Darnold comes in. All of a sudden, no huddle, hurry up offense. It's like, what? What does that mean about how Kyle feels about the two quarterbacks? That was strange. And then Darnold leads a touchdown drive, gets the ball again, leads it down to the 1 yard line, 3rd and goal from the 1. If they scored there, they could have kicked an onside kick and had an opportunity to tie the game. Kyle called a pass from the 1. And of course, Darnold got sacked. To me, it's like if Darnold had thrown a touchdown pass there, let's say he called a pass. You don't know what's going to happen. If he throws a touchdown pass there and he ends the game with 2 touchdowns and no picks in a game where Brock Purdy melts down.
But Iggy, he didn't only, didn't he throw a pick at the end?
Yeah, on the next play, he threw a pick because it's Sam Darnold.
Next play, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So he threw
I don't know what Kyle season, but that's Sam.
There were 5 picks in all. And my reading of Darnold, and let's not stay with him very long, he does very nice things and then he louses them up right away.
Correct.
That's his whole pattern. And he did it again. We saw it yesterday.
Yep. In 1 quarter. Took him 1 quarter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
He did. That's his pattern.
Yeah.
So what we have now is Brock Purdy is a very good quarterback, but you have to understand his limitations and work around them.
Yeah.
And if a team has good enough linebackers and like safeties to inhabit the middle of the field, you can make him look really bad, like he looked in training camp.
Yeah, that's right. And, Fred Warner said after the game, like, hey, we're not going to overreact to this loss. It's not going to, it's not going to shake our confidence or anything. Whenever he says something's not going to happen, I always feel like that's exactly what's happening. And I think,
of course,
with a football team, a lot of your confidence is derived from how you feel about your quarterback. He's the most important player on your team. And I think all year the Niners have been sort of fueled by our quarterback's underrated. People don't understand. He's really the best. He really is the MVP. And we're going to show you guys. And now they have to look in the mirror and realize no, that's just something you were telling yourselves. He's better than Jimmy Garoppolo for sure. But you don't have the best quarterback in the league. And when you're in the playoffs, you're going to have the second best quarterback on the field in some big game.
You are, and he may have to bring you back at the end of a game, and he hasn't proved yet that he can do it. I'm not saying he can't, but I'm beginning to have more doubts.
I'm beginning to have more doubts as well. Let's do some prize picks before we get too worried.
Sure, I love it.
Sure. Okay. All right. Let's start with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray against the Eagles, who are surging, Dad. 223.5 passing yards for the elite Kyler Murray. What do you think?
Whatever is under, I'm picking under.
Real quick, let's give your who's the better quarterback, Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray?
Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray? Lamar Jackson.
Not even close.
I mean, it's not even a discussion.
Not even close.
Right.
Lamar Jackson is a supreme competitor, and Kyler Murray is, I'm not sure what he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Less for Kyler.
Less for Kyler.
Mayfield. Baker Mayfield winning streak, 235.5. Not a lot against the Saints. Good defense.
I'm going more. I'm now here's the thing, Iggy. It's very important to understand.
Yeah.
Since Baker Mayfield moved out of that stadium.
Yes.
I think living in the stadium was affecting his marriage.
Yes.
And I think it was affecting there was a draft in there. He couldn't get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Thank God he moved out of that drafty place, and now he's more serious about football and playing better. I kind of like him.
Yeah, in retrospect, the Browns shouldn't have had him live inside their stadium. They should have got him a condo. He might have worked out for them.
So.
That was on them.
It was the Brown stadium he was living in?
It was the Brown stadium, yeah. They took him with the first pick. Now he's on his 3rd team, and he's finally having the best season of his career.
Yeah.
Baker. Okay, Geno Smith, who almost lost his job, but then came back and won last week against the Steelers, 230.5 passing yards. 230.
He's going to play the Steelers?
The Steelers.
Okay, I'm going to say more.
Why?
I'm not wild about him.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a very good competitor, and I think the Steelers stink. I just think they stink. I think Mike Tomlin, I think he's a terrible coach. I don't know why they keep him there. I'm sorry.
I don't think he's terrible. I think he's just mediocre. He's extremely mediocre, just like that team.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
gets this reputation of being a great coach, but they're always 500.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jordan Love, 227.5 against the Vikings. Good defense.
I'm saying under. He's a very interesting player. And let me, I haven't seen him all that much.
Yeah.
He can do really good things. I think he's really gifted, and I think he will be a very, very good quarterback. But at this stage in his career, he also does some very bad things. And I think he will against the Vikings. One thing I like about him, his face, you can't read his face. He's got this deadpan face all the time, which I like in a quarterback.
Yeah. Absolutely. I did not have that when I was an athlete in North Oakland Little League, unfortunately.
No, yeah, it's true. You didn't.
Amari Cooper, 55.5 receiving yards against the Jets. He just went for like almost 300 last week. And
yeah, I know the Jets have a pretty good defense, but he's really good. I'm going to say over.
Actually, we get this bonus 37.5 receiving yards. I don't know why, but I'm taking that one. And then last one, let's do Justin Jefferson against the Packers. You saw a lot of Justin Jefferson this weekend.
Whatever it is, he's going to do more.
Yeah,
Iggy,
88. Let's do more. He's so good.
Iggy, this is the best wide receiver in the league, right?
Yeah. He's always open. Yeah, he's incredible.
And he's tough.
He's better than Brandon Ayuk, who's excellent.
I love to watch this guy play. I do. Yeah.
All right, well, if we get all these right, then we win $500, Dad, and I'll take you out to dinner and I'll buy you a bottle of wine. Let's place the entry.
That's nice.
Thank you, PrizePicks. All right. Okay, it's time to get down to it. Dad, what did we learn about Kyle Shanahan in this game?
All right. Iggy, there's a lot. So we'll go back and forth, all right?
Yeah.
Grant and I have expressed admiration for many things Kyle does. But the one Achilles heel that we've noticed, and a lot of other people, it's not just us, he doesn't always do well in big crisis games like Super Bowls. Yesterday was a crisis game in the best sense. It was the best game of the year in the whole league. He had a crummy game plan.
Yeah.
It seemed like the game was too big for him. Mm-hmm. That's not good. In addition, okay, you have a crummy game plan. But when you see it's not working, adapt. Iggy, he never did. He never adapted. So it's part A and part B. Crummy game plan, didn't know what to do when it didn't work. Would you agree with that?
I would absolutely agree. So he starts off the game. He calls 5 straight passes in the first series. First pass to McCaffrey, 3 yards. Second pass incomplete to Juszczyk. Next pass to Kittle for 58 yards. Next pass to Kittle for 13. 1st and 10 from the 15. Another pass. That's not the Niners offense. They're a balanced offense. So he comes out and he's trying to make some kind of a statement on national television with his quarterback against the Ravens. And on 1st and 10, he throws a pick in the end zone. Like, so avoidable. Really don't need to do that. I asked Kyle Shanahan after the game, like, why did you come out so aggressive? And when he's not really prepared to answer a question, he gets a little defensive. And in this one, he said, well, we were moving the ball really well. It seemed to be working. Okay. Right. Sure. But then your quarterback threw an inexplicable interception, which meant that he wasn't ready for the moment. He was overamped for whatever reason. That's when you have to say, look, even though my game plan is good and it's working, he's not ready. This 24-year-old quarterback isn't ready. I got to slow down. I got to run the ball and get him into the flow of the game. Otherwise, he's going to lose it despite this game plan that I think is so effective. That's what you got to do. That's coaching.
Right. In fact, there was a difference between him loving the game plan, which he did, and it being appropriate for his quarterback.
Right.
It's like he didn't care about the quarterback.
No.
This should work because I've thought it up. I'm not even considering what my quarterback can or cannot do. And the other thing, Iggy, is the Ravens' run defense. Is it great?
No. It's statistically worse than the 49ers run defense in terms of yards per carry allowed.
And CMC had a good run. He had over 100 yards.
Averaged 7.5 yards a carry, scored a touchdown.
Only had 14 carries.
Yes.
So his whole emphasis was different from what it always is. And he picked exactly the wrong game to do that, which is, again, not being as up to the large moment. And that's what one of the things that we keep wondering with him. And he did nothing in this game to dispel that wondering. And we're learning more and more that he's not up to it.
It's one thing to have a good game plan and call good plays, which Kyle can do. But how do you react when your quarterback is rattled? Called rattled in baseball, right? He was rattled. What do? Kyle makes it worse. All of a sudden, you see him getting angry on the sideline, and you see Brock Purdy sort of the bad stuff snowballs, and then he's hurt, and then he's out, and then Sam Darnold's in, and he doesn't have any of that pressure on him, and he plays okay for a minute. And then afterward, Kyle Shanahan has all kind of praise for Darnold. It just feels like Kyle Shanahan made it worse. And then he did try to say, it wasn't all Purdy's fault, and it was some bad luck. But how do you think Purdy feels about himself after this game? How do you think he feels his standing with Shanahan is?
Right. He feels vulnerable, of course.
Last
man taken in the draft.
Yeah, he didn't want me back in the game. I said I was ready. I put my helmet on. He said no. He wanted to see Sam. I don't know why. And then he said Sam was really good. He didn't say I was really good because I wasn't.
Yeah, and listen, I know when your quarterback has the yips, and it happens, especially to a young guy like that. What you do is you think, what plays does he like? Let's be clear, Iggy. Not what plays do I like as a play caller, and my plan, my scripted plays and my whole plan. Forget that. What's more important is, what is my quarterback like? How can I get him comfortable and in the flow of the game? There's a lot of passes that he could have. First of all, they could have run the ball, but in addition, there were a lot of gimme passes that he could have given the kid, but it wasn't in his game plan because he wanted to make a statement. So he loused up his quarterback.
He did want to make a statement, and the statement should have been beat the Ravens by any means necessary. But it felt like the statement Shanahan wanted to make was, Brock Purdy is the MVP of my team and the league. It's not Christian McCaffrey. It's not Lamar Jackson. It's Brock Purdy. And so he had this pass first game plan, which didn't work. Like what Cam Newton said is, Brock Purdy isn't going to win you the game. You're asking him not to lose it. Well, the Niners asked him to win the game when they didn't have to ask him to do that, and he lost it. Turned the ball over 4 times, when really all they had to ask him to do was don't lose the game, hand off the ball. They could have won that way. That's what's so perplexing about this game. They could have won simply by handing off and doing the stuff they used to do with Jimmy Garoppolo when they had no confidence in their quarterback. Remember when they won an NFC Championship game, throwing 8 times? They could have done something like that. And so they beat themselves.
Yeah. And when it began to snowball into a lot of picks, you would think the coach would take stock of himself, not of the quarterback, and say, what am I doing to be complicit in this? How can I get out of it? How can I help? He never did it. Never did it.
Because with Purdy, the thing that's so incredible about him that stands out is what? His poise, his calm. Why do people compare him to Joe Montana? Oh, he's so cool out there. He's so unflappable. Not against the Ravens. He never settled into that game. He was, I don't know, I'm not going to say freaked, but he was, it's like overamped from the onset. And Kyle didn't adjust. And good coaches adjust, like baseball. Do you have it or not today? Brock didn't have it, and Kyle didn't adjust.
Right. He didn't adjust at all.
No. It's the same. So what do we learn about Kyle? He's the same guy. We always want to give him credit for learning, for growing and changing, but that test is coming now. You can't prove that in November or October. And we acted like he did. So he just failed the first real test of the season. He's got more coming up. He can redeem himself, but he hasn't redeemed himself yet because he beat the Eagles.
And, it's interesting. I saw the transcript of he did a phone thing with the media today. And Iggy asked him, I think, a very good question. How did you phrase the last question, Iggy?
Do you feel this loss was a reality check for your team, or was it just one of those things?
Right. And he said it's a loss. And
He
I want to be
paused for
very
like 4 seconds before answering. He was like,
he, he really had to think it through.
yeah,
Fair enough. Fair enough. And also, I think as a coach, it's an okay answer. I mean,
yeah,
and not a good answer would be to say, we lost our poise. I'm more, you can't do that. See, so he just says it's a loss. But we know it's different from just a loss. It's devastating what happened yesterday, and it has ramifications. And believe me, when he's not talking to the media, he's not very happy today. He's not like it's a loss.
no,
But he also said at one point, when you throw all those picks or have all those turnovers, it's hard to win a game. But the deeper question is, why'd you have all those turnovers? And
right.
he doesn't want to go there because it would
Also,
implicate him.
also
No, I'm saying
when he says, it's the turnovers, it's the penalties. What he's saying is the Ravens aren't better than us. We beat ourselves. And to me, like, I guess it's a good mindset to have, but to me, it's the hallmark of this team. It's an arrogance. They know they're the best team in the league. It doesn't matter what actually happens. They've been the best team in the league since 2019, and they are the best team, and that's just the way it is. And when they lose, it's, we weren't quite ready, or we needed a wake-up call, or we just kind of beat ourselves, or we were a little slop. We didn't live up to our standard, but when we do, watch out. It's like, nah. Really humbling yourself is like, we're not as good as we think we are. We haven't won a championship. We've really proven nothing. We need to stop carrying ourselves like we're a cut above everyone else, because we're not.
And we need to show hunger.
Hunger. Talk about
Yeah.
not being ready on Christmas against the Ravens. That's a you problem.
Yeah.
That's a you problem.
Iggy, you also made a very good point. How nervous Purdy was reflected how nervous the coach was.
Of course.
As opposed to calming the quarterback down, the coach was yelling at the officials, and he was freaked, and he transferred that to the quarterback as opposed to calming him down. He couldn't, because he couldn't calm himself down.
And you know why he was freaked? Because he knew his game plan was wrong for his team that night, and he wasn't going to be able to adjust. And instead of blaming himself and saying, or instead of fixing it on the fly, as a great coach might, he melted down. And as a result, his quarterback melted down and took all the criticism that should be going to Kyle.
But we're balancing that now, you and I. We're giving a little criticism. Yeah. Now, I know that you've been getting along with Kyle very well lately. I know you have. And I think he gets a kick out of you the way Harbaugh got a kick out of you and me. This is not unfriendly, what you're doing. You're not saying he's a bad person, a bad father, nothing like that. You're saying he loused up in a game, and it may be part of a pattern. That's fair analysis. He should not take this personally. He should be doing the same analysis as self-analysis. He should be doing it, or he should be sitting down with John Lynch and said, John, what do you think? This is what, or with his dad, this is what happened. What could I have done in the second and third quarter of that game? He should do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was just really interesting to see Kyle Shanahan come apart at the seams in the biggest moment of the season for him on national television. It's really interesting to see it happen. I guess he hasn't changed yet. Maybe he will, but he didn't in this game.
Right. So what we learned is he hasn't changed yet. Iggy, I want to say one other thing, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I saw that transcript of his presser today.
That's what I want to talk about.
You have to understand, I am retired, but I have been in thousands of post-game news conferences in every sport. Warriors, Giants, A's, Raiders, Niners. The next day, I've been in thousands of these, and I know how they go. I know how they should go. And I can assure you that I always had questions, and I was extremely assertive, because I wasn't there to make friends with the coach. I was there to be a freaking journalist.
Yeah.
And I was there to ask questions of people who have power. And if it made them uncomfortable, sorry, It's not personal. Well, I looked at this transcript, and these are some of them are my friends. They're still there from when I was working. And some of the questions, first of all, there were very few questions about yesterday's game. To me, that's the only topic.
Today's conference call.
Yeah, in today's conference call, there was nothing. Iggy asked 2 questions, and Jennifer Lee Chan asked some questions.
Yes,
Iggy, I don't know if anybody else did.
There was a lot about Jason Verrett and Diamador Lenore and Embry Thomas, Juwan Jennings.
Oh, Juwan Jennings, who didn't play. Mm-hmm. So here's Kyle, who has a lot of explaining to do, whether he wants to or not. And he's getting questions about Juwan Jennings. Mm-hmm. He's getting questions about Jason Verrett, who played just a few plays. And I'm thinking, reading this, what in the world is going on? What are they so afraid of? Are they afraid that Kyle won't like them if they ask a direct question? I read some of the columns that were written, and I thought a lot of the columns were making excuses. Boy, they can really learn from this. They can really grow from this. If I were writing a column yesterday, I would have started with a line on Monday night. The Niners had reality rubbed in their faces, and would have gone from there. That's the story. The story isn't, maybe they can learn and maybe they can do better. Not your job to be a cheerleader. They had realities rubbed in their faces, and you go from there. And that establishes your point of view and your tone.
And you mentioned that Kyle's gotten a kick out of me recently. Yeah, he's been winning. And I haven't been asking tough questions. But I was doing that as a courtesy to his winning. Now that he lost, I have to do my job, and that's not being nice or giving him, asking him what he wants to be asked. That's having him not like me this week. That's my job. I have to be okay with that, because what Kyle likes to do, and maybe it's what I would do in his position, when someone asks him a question he likes, he tries to give him positive reinforcement. A question that doesn't, right? Hey, I like you. That's a good question. I might use your name. I'll smile at you. We do business. As soon as you ask him a question that questions something he did or implies criticism of something he did, he smacks you down publicly to make you look like you don't even understand football and it's a stupid question. And most people don't want that. I'll take it. I don't mind.
Right. It's because it's called being a journalist.
It's called being a journalist. The best journalists are a little unfazed by that kind of stuff. Let's see. Let's look at the videotape. System quarterback. Words are limited. That's why. SQ. Sorry, Hound. Frank Tom Ocean, member for 9 months. Thank you. Cade Gilson says, have Lowell apologize to Lamar. Ooh,
Cade,
that's a good one.
Cade, thank you for bringing it up. No apology required. And I'm going to tell you why. Cade, if you listen to me, I said, I don't think he's a good passer. I don't like him as a quarterback in that sense. I still don't. But I think he's the most dangerous weapon in the league. That's what I said. And I think it's accurate. There are any number of quarterbacks in the pocket who are better than Lamar Jackson. That's true. There are no quarterbacks who are a better weapon. So no apology. Don't ask me to apologize again, because I'm very solid on what I said.
He did. He was. He is. David Baker says, just got here. Poor play calling by the coach. And why did they not run?
That's what we were wondering.
I think if you've been here since 4:15, I think you heard us talk about it. Wave 9 says LJ's doing it with a washed OBJ and a rookie. Yeah, but Zay Flowers is excellent. I think that number 4 kid, watching him in person, he reminded me a lot of Tyreek Hill. He's really good. But yeah, Hound 594 says Niners not ready for the AFC. Another heartbreak year.
Well, we're going to find out. Certainly what we saw yesterday would give you some reason to doubt.
Fish and Chips been a member for 4 months. Thanks for coming back, Fish and Chips. 804 Peel SS says, last week, Mr. Cohn said Lamar couldn't win Super Bowl. Now, what do you think?
Did I say he couldn't win the Super Bowl league?
I remember you saying he couldn't win the Super Bowl.
I don't remember saying that. So
did your opinion of him change at all after watching this game? In any way?
He's even more dynamic than I thought he was. But Iggy, as a pocket passer, he's erratic. He's erratic.
He's like not a pocket passer, is what I would say.
He's like not a pocket passer. Yeah.
He tries. God love him. Maybe one day. Fish and Chip says 0-38 when under pressure across all quarterbacks. That's Kyle when losing in the fourth quarter. Wave 9 says, whoa, Mike Tomlin is bad. LOL, he has 2 Super Bowls. He has 1 as a head coach.
Okay, hold on. He may have been good at one time. I don't think he's good now. I think it's fair to say that. Just like Pete Carroll might have been was good at one time.
That's what I was going to say.
He's not like good anymore. Bill Belichick. You know, things change.
It's over.
Yeah.
Your time has come and gone.
Yeah.
Right? There was a time when Monty Kiffin was the premier defensive coach in the league. Now, if you have Monty Kiffin on your staff, that's not guaranteeing you anything.
Right.
The book is out.
He still alive?
I don't know. Jorgen 1990 says, big up, Grant. Defense has been sus since the Seattle home game. Fans saying it's our year are as obnoxious to me as Philly fans. Hate the overhyped piece. They give it up 62 points in the last 2 games.
Wow.
62. Fish and Chip says, do I have to express my opinion on Kid Kyle, or do you already know, Grant? Fair weather coach, lack of adaptability, overreaction to crisis, benching Brock Purdy. Overreaction to crisis. Yeah. Well put. And then again, when is Kyle Shanahan going to the podium and say, my fault?
Oh. As my mom would say, in a pig's eye.
Yeah. Shirtless. Something says Niners lost to crap Atlanta in 2019. This was needed. That was
not needed. Hold on.
Yeah.
This point of view. I certainly appreciate you giving your point of view. A loss is never needed. There is nothing good about a loss. And if you think that, you're deluding yourself.
It was a good loss. Or so the Niners think. Danny D says Kyle came out in the same shotgun formation he did against the Eagles that left them with negative yards at the end of the first quarter in that game. He refused to establish the run from start to finish.
He sure did.
Yeah. But, you know, why you can't expect him to try to run the ball. It's not like he has the best running back in the league.
Yeah.
By Victor says, do you think Kyle's anxiety rubbed off on Brock? Yes.
We said that it did. I'd say 100%.
Fish and Chip says, watching this game a long time, I see the ending. I think we all do. Official B&A Music 88 says, the team doesn't have much financial attachment to Brock and opens the door for his replacement. Between this year and next year, he has to show up against the real teams. Smoking bad teams doesn't get you paid. Boy,
doesn't get you wins.
7MP says, every time the Niners get smacked, they never admit it. And the same with the fans. They damage control by saying they needed the loss. So you say they needed making the path to the number 1 seed harder.
Right. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. David Baker says, thanks for the clarity. Papa is a bonus. Rock on. Thanks for being a member for 19 months. Gold 2 says, could Eagles push 80 yards for the score?
Maybe they're reduced to that.
Brooks says, you think Josh Johnson gave up secrets? Josh Johnson's on the Ravens. Yeah, probably. He knows it all. Ralph says, can we talk about the D-line chasing stats instead of containing mobile quarterbacks? It's frustrating.
You can talk about that, Iggy. What Bosa did?
Yeah, I mean, coming into the game, I wrote, how's Javon Kinlaw and Javon Hargrave going to do in the middle? They were great. They were selfless. They took on double teams so that the run defense would work. The defensive ends were a bunch of pigs, all of them. I guess Nick Bosa sets the tone because he's the greatest player of all time. And he can do whatever he wants. And if he can do it, then other people can do it. But Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Cleveland Farrell, Randy Gregory, just routinely rushing past Lamar Jackson. And it was funny before the game, they were like, you know, Lamar's changed this year. He just stays in the pocket. He wants to go through his reads. Who the fuck told you that? That is not true. You got the wrong party. You got the wrong scouting report there. What? They invited him to go out of the pocket, and he was like, okay, if you want me to leave the pocket, I guess I'll go. They gave him like a written invitation. Dear Lamar, please exit through the B gap. Love the Niners defensive ends. Thank you so much.
Really? They left it open. You know what he did? He rope-a-doped them.
He rope-a-doped him. He just stood there for a while, made him think he wasn't going to move, and then he's like, I'm actually the best quarterback ever. Brother Bob says, Lowell, you have to answer, will Kyle Shanahan win a Super Bowl in San Francisco?
But that's a tough one. I mean, okay, I'm going to do the best I can. My gut feeling is no. But I understand he could.
Yeah.
So I have to say my gut says no, but my brain says don't be so closed-minded. That's the best answer I could give.
Yeah, I mean, my gut says no too, but I'm not extremely confident about that, and I understand that he can win it this year or any year. What you talking about, Willis says, y'all get a sense that there was no urgency in the fourth quarter to me watching the game. Seemed like the players had already given up 0 of 40 comebacks. Yeah, the Niners aren't coming back. I got emails in the fourth quarter say, where is the hurry up offense? Why are they going so slow? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. Matt McEwen says, I hope both you had a great holiday, Grant. I sent you a DM about Brock's stats while trailing double check, but it's scary bad. Okay, let me get it. Where are you? Okay. Oh, okay, here we go. When trailing, his completion percentage is 63, his TD/INT ratio is 5-7, and his passer rating is 82. When winning, his pass rating is 123. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, that's not a Joe Montana split right there.
And you know what that's called? A front runner.
Front running.
Right.
Front running. All right. Niners play the Commanders next week. Short week, going across the country, 10 a.m. start. What are we going to learn about the 49ers?
Okay, let me first say where the Commanders are. They've already given up on it. Well, they lost 6 in a row. Poor Ron Rivera is going to get fired at the end of the season. And I really like the guy. They've already ordered the players. The Beacons trucks are in the parking lot. They probably already put, their rental furniture in there and everything. They're ready to go home.
Yeah, they have their plans for they're going to Cabo or
right. They're ready to go home.
Europe.
Yeah. And so I don't think they'll be fully into this game. As a result, I don't think we're going to learn anything about the 49ers. I used to hate to have to write a column on games like this because the 49ers will win. And then are you supposed to say they're all the way back?
They're back.
No. Statement. It's a statement. It's not a statement game.
People are going to say that. They can't help themselves.
They will. They regrouped. There was a terrible loss, but they and Kyle Juszczyk said it was what we needed, and now we regrouped and we beat a fine squad of They're underrated. You know what I mean? All of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's back. God, I found our standard again. No, you found Washington.
You found Washington. Right. It's a gift that never stops giving.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that game is a nut. It's bupkis. It's a nothing.
No, all it is who gets hurt. Honestly, the attrition.
Yeah,
the attrition because they have to play it. That's the worst thing about the game. They actually have to play it, and they'll win. But someone's going to get hurt that you don't need to get hurt, and you're going to be like, oh well. And you know what? If they had taken care of business with Baltimore, this game wouldn't have mattered as much.
And they wouldn't have had to try hard the next week against the Rams. They could have coasted that, but now they can't. They need to win these 2 games, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to say something about the Rams and their BS coach. I want to say something.
All right. So week 18, the Niners play the Rams. We're looking right ahead to that game because
yeah. So people are going to say, this Rams team, they're really coming on. Matthew Stafford's really, and that guy, that defensive guy that never seems to make a play, but they always have the camera on him.
Aaron Donald.
He's always have the camera. I never saw him make a play. Yeah. So, this is a dangerous game for the 49ers. No, it isn't. The Rams stink. They are what we called earlier in this broadcast NFC tough. They're tough for the stunken NFC.
That is true. That is absolutely true.
The Niners are going to kill them. And then they'll go and we'll see what happens in the playoffs. I fully expect them to go to the Super Bowl. I don't think the Rams are going to pose much of a threat because the Rams are NFC tough and they stink. And Matthew Stafford will throw 2 picks in that game. Right?
I love that because their NFC's tough and they stink. Here's the thing, though. Let's stick with this for a second because I'm inclined to agree with you. But so the last few games, they've scored, last 5 games, they scored 37, 36, 31, 28, 30. So their offense was crap for a long time, but now they have Cooper Kupp back and this rookie Puka Nacua who's really good and Stafford's healthy and they have a running back named Kyron Williams who's pretty good too. So they're not terrible on offense. The Niners defense has not been good the last 2 weeks. That's all I got.
Okay, I got a question, and I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
Who did score all those points again in the last 5 games?
Okay, yeah, no, let's talk about that. That's a good. Okay, let's do that. So they scored 37 against the Cardinals. No, hold on. They scored 36 against the Browns. Let's not mess around.
No, that's good. That's good.
Against the Browns. Then they played the Ravens and scored 31 and lost in overtime, which frankly is a whole lot better than the Niners did. And they did that in Baltimore. Then they put up 28 on Washington. Okay. Then they put up 30 on the Saints. That's actually a pretty good defense, but they're not going anywhere. So 36 on Cleveland, 31 on Baltimore.
Fair enough.
Against those teams.
Maybe I'm underrating them, but you know what? I feel like being a jerk. So I'm going to say the Niners are going to kill them, and they're NFC tough. I just feel like being a jerk.
You know who else is NFC tough? I don't even know that they're NFC tough. They might just be soft regardless. Dallas.
Oh.
I don't even think they're NFC tough.
No. You know what Dallas is? Dallas is a fighter with a glass jaw.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Glass jaw.
Yeah.
Can't take a shot.
No.
Kenny Norton. They're Kenny Norton. Can't take a shot.
Yep.
I like Kenny.
And then the Eagles, like they're still knocked out. Like they've been searching for they've been trying to get up for the last 10 minutes.
They can't even find their mouthpiece.
Right. They're
like
searching for
Tyson.
like Mike Tyson against Buster Douglas.
Yeah, right.
Here's what I want to ask. So the two teams in the NFC that seem to matter other than the Niners are the Rams and the Lions. I don't know if I've asked you this yet on the show, but which team do you think poses a bigger threat to the Niners in the playoffs? And I'm not saying either one would beat the Niners, but which team poses a bigger threat and why?
Detroit. I think it's a better team and better coach. I think Detroit is a really good coach. I think he's really done quite a job there. And although I have certain misgivings about Jared Goff, he's either as good as Matthew Stafford or just a tick behind.
Yeah.
And if you give him
Stafford, he's going to throw 2 picks. I don't feel that way about Goff.
No.
He'll manage the game a little bit better. Stafford thinks he's a game changer, and sometimes he is, but he changes the game in a lot of different ways for both teams.
He does.
Yeah.
So I think that I don't think the Lions can beat the Niners. I think the Lions could make a game out of it, but I don't think they could beat him. But I have what I consider a more relevant question. Okay. We've been talking about NFC tough.
Yeah.
The Niners, are they tough? Are they NFL tough? Or are they NFC tough?
They got to prove they're NFL tough. 1-3 against the AFC North. You're NFC tough. And what's interesting, we're talking about teams the Niners wouldn't want to face. Well, Detroit doesn't have a great defense. The Rams don't have a great defense. The teams that have given the Niners problems are teams that have great defenses. Tough, violent defenses with great linebackers. Cleveland and Baltimore. That's not Detroit. That's not the Rams. It's teams in freaking AFC. So that's what the Niners need to avoid, teams like that.
And they may not be able. They may be meeting at the crossroads someday. Not too long from now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're saying, and we're pretty much near the end of this, that the Niners are NFC tough.
Yeah. They're like the Dolphins. They're a team that's going to beat you with motion and deception. They like to act like they're a bully team, but it's very much about Kyle and his scheme and tricking you. Right. The Ravens are about. The Ravens are a very simple offense. Most of their plays don't even freaking work. Lamar just starts doing whatever he wants to do, and it works for them.
Yeah. And also, I have to say, talk about tough. That AFC team beat up the 49ers yesterday. Didn't just beat them up. Hurt them.
Yeah. Let me get one stat before we go to the super chats, because I keep trying to paint the picture of the difference between these two conferences. The Niners, they're 9-1 against the NFC, and they're 2-3 against the AFC. The Ravens are 7-3 against the AFC. That's incredible. Whoa. And they're 5-0 against of course. Did you know Lamar Jackson is 21 in his career against the NFC?
Because the NFC is NFC tough.
Yeah. And this guy, I don't know, no matter how he plays the position, he reminds me, his will to win and his competitiveness, a lot like young Wilson. Remember, I mean, just watching Russell Wilson against the Niners, you knew he was going to find a way to win, even if he was down 10 in the fourth quarter. It was going to come.
Right.
It felt like
Yes.
that with this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson, no longer, because I think he's beginning
He's
to
done. He's done.
lose it a little bit. But when he was good with Seattle, he was one of my favorite players. I thought he was a great quarterback. I did.
I thought so
he was
too, and I
great.
feel like there was a debate in Seattle whether he was a game manager or a game changer.
Game changer.
I thought so too. He didn't throw the ball a lot, and when he got older and made more money, they tried to make him like a pass first guy. It didn't work as well, but as a complement to a running game, he was a game changer. He produced the biggest plays with his arm and his legs. He was a great player.
Yeah.
Matt McEwen says, "Don't be shocked when the Niners lose to the Rams."
Good
I would be
point.
kind of shocked.
You would?
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, they took the Ravens to overtime. They only lost to the Niners by 7 week 2. They're better now. Remember after that game, Sean McVay was all manic saying how excited he was about the loss.
Yeah, maybe he was right.
Talking about that culture. Vinyl Work says, everyone hating on Cam for speaking facts about Brock Purdy being a system quarterback. I hate to say this, but the Niners were crazy to get rid of Trey Lance.
That's old history.
Brandon Green says, Papa Cohn, did you cover Mancini versus Kim fight in 1982?
Thank God, no. Thank God, no. Kim died as a result of that fight, sweetie.
Oof.
A terrible fight. Yeah, Mancini is a good guy. He did nothing wrong, but thank God I didn't cover that fight.
Matt McEwen says, oops, wish I would have waited on that last super chat. So it's okay. Daniel Sotelo says, while the loss yesterday was not needed, is there something to be said that the loss to the Ravens could be humbling and bring them back to reality since they act like they're already champions? We talked about that earlier.
No, I don't think there's anything good about that loss.
When you say,
I don't think so,
we just beat ourselves, it's all about penalties and turnovers, that's not a humble thing to say. That's saying, even though we lost to the Ravens by a good amount, we're better than them still.
Yeah.
Even though we didn't prove it.
Yeah. A better thing to say is, they were better than us today. We hope we meet them again in the Super Bowl, and we'd like another shot. That's what every one of those players should have said, and the coach. The coach should have said it. And John Lynch, if anybody talked to him, should have said it with pride. They were better than us today. We admit it, and we're good enough to admit it, and we'll get them next time. That's the answer.
Yeah, that's being humble. That's humbling yourself. That they were better than us today. Not we beat ourselves or none of that. Bob Vickers says, do you think the game last night made the Eagles and Cowboys poop their pants? Why?
I don't know. I hadn't thought of that. And if they did, I hope they were wearing Depends.
Brock says Rams are Oxnard tough, not Crenshaw tough, because they practice out in Oxnard. That's true. Were they Thousand Oaks? I think they're Thousand Oaks tough. Gold Rush says, I can see why Grant overreacts so much. Apple tree.
You know what, Gold Rush? I got something to say about that. First of all, we are very much alike. He is my son. There's a lot of genetic material I passed on to him. Overreacted because the Niners, who were supposed to be the best team in the league, talk about pooping your pants yesterday, and we overreacted.
Yeah.
We're supposed to react to what happened. If we sat here and said, like a lot of other people did, well, it's a learning experience. They'll learn from this.
They needed it.
They needed this.
They needed this.
They needed
this. Was good for them.
Yes, and it made them learn what's real. You'd want to put your finger down your throat and vomit. Let's move on.
Yeah. You know what would have been good for them? Beating the Ravens.
Yeah. That would have been very good for them.
Losing to the Ravens by 14.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fish and Chip says, who's more foolish, Kyle Shanahan or Gimple?
Oh, Gimple's a hero.
Gimple's a hero, yeah.
Iggy loves that hero,
yeah. Gimple's Jesus Christ in a small town.
I think Gimple is Jesus Christ, and it's funny that Isaac Bashevis Singer, the most Jewish writer, wrote that, but Gimple, I think, is Jesus Christ.
Well, Jesus was Jewish.
It's true. He had a bar mitzvah.
Yeah, people forget that. He was bar mitzvah. All right. That's the show. Thanks for watching, everyone. Dad, I'll see you in a minute.
Okay. Don't call me because I'll see you.
I'll see you.
Hey, everybody.
You
listen. Happy New Year. Thank you for tuning in. New Year's Eve is a crazy night, so everybody be safe. Have a great time and be safe.
Be safe, everyone. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Big day back in Santa Clara. Have a good night.
Love